You jelly?
You know, I'm getting up there in years, and I figure it's time to take a look back. Before I became a countdown maker on YouTube, I had no concept of how it felt being popular. I was never athletic. I was a nerd. I was a target for bullies. Basically, video games were a big part of my childhood. You know where I'm going with this, so I'm just going to flat out say it. This is a list of the games that made my childhood. Granted, people have done this kind of list before, but my childhood is different from everyone else's, so you're probably going to see a lot of different games on here. Keep in mind, I'm also taking into account how well the games hold up as well. Anyways, memory lane awaits. It's game time! I didn't own a Game Boy until far into the system's lifespan. My first handheld was a Game Gear. When I got it as a gift, it came with the Majors Pro Baseball and Sonic 2. However, I had a lot more fun with Sonic Chaos. Being the first Sonic game I actually completed from start to finish, instead of getting stuck at the first freaking boss, I have plenty of fond memories of this game. Playing as Tails and being able to fly over the place, it was great. And then I realized that Tails was the easy mode and started playing as Sonic. It was a lot of fun going through the levels, zipping about like a roadrunner on crack, Sleeping Egg Zone in its overabundance of springs, Mecha Green Hill and its catchy as hell level theme. In fact, this game had quite a few catchy themes. Of course, there are a few things I didn't get about the game, like how the game judged your speed at the end of a level, how they decided on Sonic's stupid design, or how the hell I managed to get all the Chaos Emeralds way back when. Still, this game was a highlight of my early days. Granted, handheld Sonic games have come a long way since then, but I would still revisit this game given the chance. Thanks for the memories, Sonic. Much like the handheld situation, my first console was not a Nintendo system. It was an Atari 2600, and while my memory is still foggy on this, Combat may well be the first game I ever played.
Let me put things in perspective for you. This is a Wii U gamepad. This is an Atari 2600 joystick. See how simple things were back then?
At its core, combat is as basic as multiplayer games get. Just your tank and your opponent's tank, moving around the arena trying to blast each other to Kingdom Come, with ricocheting ammo that probably inspired Revolver Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid. Of course, there were more than just vanilla tanks. There were also biplanes, double biplanes, big planes versus 3 planes, and even jets. If you wanted, you could even make your tanks invisible. Yeah, because ninja tanks are totally a thing. This game was packed in with every 2600 back in the day, so if you had a 2600, chances are you had this game as well. Of course, being multiplayer only, that meant you either needed friends to play with, or family, like I did. After all, the family that plays together stays together. Yeah, this was a gem from my early days.
What? Yeah, I know I'm old.
Street Fighter II, the game that popularized the fighting genre and set the groundwork for many, many fighting games to come. However, most of my memories lie with Super Street Fighter II. Yeah, it was part of Capcom's tactics of releasing upgraded versions of existing games, but considering this was before the days of digital distribution and DLC, I'll let this instance pass. My sister and I used to play this game with a couple of neighbors a lot back when I was living in Green Bay. We had a blast playing the team battle and tournament modes, not to mention the old classic versus modes. I like the option between straight-up match play and elimination-style matches. Time challenges were fun, too. There was just that simple pleasure of beating the crap out of the computer as fast as possible. Of course, we can't forget the iconic characters. My favorites were always Chun-Li and Cammy, though I did give all the characters a shot. Of course, back then I couldn't pull off Zangief's 360-degree command grabs and was therefore unable to crush opponents' skulls like spittlewig between thighs, but I prefer more mobile characters anyway. Yeah, this game hasn't aged so well, but for the time you couldn't do better. Of course, in this day and age, Capcom's marketing tactics don't fly with gamers.
Seriously, Capcom, do we need another Street Fighter 4?
I've brought up Final Fantasy a few times in my countdowns, but believe it or not, the first Final Fantasy game I played was 10. And that was in college. The first RPG I ever played was actually Breath of Fire. This was what got me interested in the genre, and for good reason. Gameplay consisted of your standard turn-based random encounters and boss battles, and the story was pretty much a standard RPG story as well. However, I really liked the game's characters. There was a princess with wings named Nina, the wolfman hunter Bo, Karn, the thief who could pick locks and fuse with other allies, Gobi, the fishman merchant, Ox, who is pretty much the tank of the group, Blue, the snake woman, who's an absolute beast with black magic, and Mogu, who's, well, a mole. But the character who captivated me the most was the main character. Yes, he's a silent protagonist, and yeah, you name him yourself at the start of the game, but that's not the important part. The important part is seeing this guy at full dragon power! Yeah, at certain points during the game, by completing various trials, you could gain dragon transformations that could really turn the tide of battle. Not to mention, they look totally awesome. This dragon power would become a constant throughout the series. While I haven't played all the games in the series, just this one, the second, and the less than stellar Dragon Quarter, I plan to play the others in the future. Just keep that tablet-based excuse for a sequel far away from me! Back in the days of elementary school, my family went on a cruise. Many fond memories of that, I tell you. There was an arcade on the cruise ship that had several games I hadn't seen before. One game in particular caught my eye. A Neo Geo game called Samurai Shodown. This game is old-school sword combat at its finest. You know, before Soul Calibur pretty much stole the spotlight. The moment I saw this game in action, I knew I wanted me some of that. The action of the game was bloody and fast-paced, relying more on powerful and quick strikes than stringing together ridiculously long combos. The game even slowed down slightly after a particularly powerful blow. Not only that, but the game had many touches true to the era in which the game was set. For example, the music utilized the sounds of traditional Japanese instruments. There were also some out there things as well, such as the delivery man who would throw items onto the field. Hell, there was even a freaking referee! Of course, what really drew me in was the cast of characters. You know, for a game called Samurai Shodown, there were certainly a lot more than just samurai in the cast. My personal favorite was the hawk-wielding shrine maiden Nakoruru. I don't know, I was always drawn to the ladies for some odd reason. Regardless, this was one of those games that made me a fan of SNK, and I'd later be introduced to more of its series such as the King of Fighters.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'd say it's about time Samurai Shodown got a proper return. Nope! Rot for eternity in the pits of hell!
My mom was nowhere near as into video games as I am, but there were a few games we played together. And the most fun I had with her was playing Tetris Attack. What, you thought I was all about action and adventure? Nope! Give me a good puzzle game and I'll be working my brain all day, son! It's a Japanese puzzle game, and you mix it with some Yoshi characters, and bam! It's Tetris Attack. This game is simple and addictive fun. Shifting around panels to rack up combos and chains like no tomorrow, there's nothing like it. Yeah, the versus com mode had some silly story attached to it, but hey, that's not what matters here, right? I also enjoyed the various other modes. You got your standard endless and time attack modes, but there were also line clear, where you had to clear panels above a certain line, and puzzle mode, where you had to clear all the panels within a certain number of moves. Some of my best memories include being able to rack up chains of over 15, and the fact that Mom always hated when I picked Poochie. Nowadays, you can enjoy this game in plenty of other forms, from Pokemon Puzzle League on the N64 and its 3D gimmick, to the DS Planet Puzzle League complete with touch controls and Wi-Fi play. But my best memories are always with the Super Nintendo original. Well, maybe not original. The original had fairies in it and inspired one of the most annoying items in Smash Bros. Yeah, that flower comes from a puzzle game. The more you know. My dad was never that much into video games either. However, like my mom, I did enjoy playing with him on occasion when I was young. And no game better represents my bond with him than Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse. Of the NES Castlevania trilogy, this game was definitely the best of the bunch. But it was also the hardest. Despite being the third game in the series, this was actually a prequel starring not Simon Belmont, but Trevor Belmont. There were 3 other characters who could help you as well. Grant Dynasty, who became a wisecracking badass in Judgment, Sypha Belnades, whom I will never forgive Deke for mangling in Captain N, and the Dampier Alucard, who became as iconic as the Belmont clan themselves, and whose name I didn't realize until I was an adult, was Dracula spelled backwards. One thing I enjoyed about Castlevania III is how the level design is a step up from the original. Since the first two-thirds of the game is your approach to Dracula's castle, you have a lot more diversity in the types of levels presented. Aside from the standard Castlevania fare, such as the clock tower and the freaking Medusa heads that come with it, you have levels like the forest, a marsh, and even a sunken ship. The soundtrack in this game still brings back fond memories. The opening level theme in particular is one of my favorite themes in the series. Of course, this game had as much frustrating moments for Dad and me. Some of those bosses were incredibly tough. Even the help me code that gives you 10 lives didn't get me that far. I needed a password to get to the final level, where I promptly got my ass handed to me. It took me over 15 years before I finally beat Dracula. It probably wouldn't have taken so long if it wasn't so hard! Come on, this is bullshit! Forwards. Crazy Duck in Space. That's right, it's Ducktales. Woo! For all the licensed space games that suck, there have been plenty of good ones, but renting Ducktales gave me one of the most enjoyable experiences that a game based on a cartoon has ever given me. The gameplay was simple, yeah, but this was the NES we were talking about. And to be honest, I wish more games today had gameplay that focused on that one elusive ingredient we call fun. I absolutely loved every minute of Scrooge McDuck's globe-spanning treasure hunt from the moment I first rented this game. One thing I always loved about Scrooge in this game is his pimped-out cane. Seriously, where else can you use a cane as a golf club and a pogo stick? I loved how the levels took advantage of these mechanics. Also, the levels themselves still bring back fond memories. Whether it was trekking through the Amazon, navigating those mirrors in Transylvania, or getting stuck in the Himalayan snowdrifts, there was always a lot of fun. My favorite level, bar none however, was the moon. Do I really need to explain why? The theme alone should be enough to justify it. Speaking of the soundtrack, it was one of the most memorable in the entire NES library, even rivaling the Mega Man games. Yeah, I said it. That is an accomplishment in and of itself. My one not-so-fond memory of the game was the finale. They made you go through Transylvania again. Sorry, but to me, that's just a cop-out. Thankfully, the new remastered added a new level in Mount Vesuvius and has all the old themes unlockable as well, so there's that. Given that my loyalties lie mainly with Nintendo, you'd expect a Mario game to be on here somewhere. Question is, which one? I could have gone with Mario 3, but no. There is another. Will, you and I must be kindred spirits, because I absolutely love Super Mario World.
This game. I love this game.
I first got this game when I got a Super Nintendo for Christmas, once again back in the days of elementary school, and I fell in love with it almost instantly. From the moment I picked up the controller and entered that first level, I was hooked. Super Mario World drew me in with its colorful and cheery presentation and its gameplay that kept my hands on the controller for a good long time.
Oh, I love this game.
There were a few things I especially remember fondly about Mario World. First was the introduction of one of my favorite power-ups ever, the Cape Feather. Grabbing this thing was always a thrill, except when it made the given level a breeze. In most cases, if you had enough room to take flight, you could maintain it all the way to the goalpost. The second was the introduction of Mario's new buddy Yoshi. I always had a smile on my face whenever I found this guy. Not only was he adorable, but he was also so useful. It always made me feel bad when I had to sacrifice him to reach an exit. I'm so heartless.
I love this game.
Also, I loved how expansive and full of secrets this game was. Screw what H said about the original, this was a game that encouraged exploration. With 96 different exits and lots of hidden levels, including the ever-so-challenging Special World, this game kept me busy for a long time.
Oh, I love this game.
At the end of the day, I don't need HD graphics, sweeping stories, or epic soundtracks to enjoy a game. All I need is for the game to be fun, and damn was this game fun. I'll fully admit that I enjoy the new Super Mario Bros. Games, but they don't hold the same value that this game did. You're the man, Mario, so just keep doing what you do best.
Oh, I love this game. I really love this game.
Let's face it, you all saw this coming. Number 1 is a Mega Man game. It's pretty much obligatory at this point. I never shut up about this franchise, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. With that, you're probably thinking that it's Mega Man 2. Well, it isn't. Even though it was the first Mega Man game I played, even I recognized how unbalanced it is, and I find it to be extremely overrated, even by the series standards. And while I love Mega Man X to death, it's not my number one either. My most nostalgic game of all time is none other than Mega Man III. Where do I even begin with this game? There's a lot that I could say, but screw it, commence with rambling. This was the first Mega Man game I ever completed. Yeah, even before I finished 2. I had so much fun with the stages in this game, whether it was dealing with the giant cats in the Top Factory, navigating through alien robot tadpoles, or storming Skull Castle for the second time. Of course, I also have to mention the Robot Masters. I felt they were more creative than in 2. Like Sparkplug here, Magnet Man, and of course, Shadow Man and his dope ninja skills. Heck, the Robot Masters from 2 make encore appearances in the Doc Robot stages. Another thing I loved about this game was the addition of 2 major gameplay elements. The first was Mega Man's slide move. From this game up through Mega Man and Base, Mega Man could slide to avoid enemy fire and fit through narrow spaces. This made stages far more fun for me, and also made boss fights more fun for me as well. The second element is Mega Man's sidekick, Rush. With his various forms allowing Mega Man to traverse the stages, Rush was a welcome addition to the series. Another character was introduced as well, a mysterious robot who was first called Breakman. It wasn't until the end of the game that I was shocked to learn that his true identity was that of Mega Man's brother, Proto Man. He had an air of mystery about him. His tendency to show up out of nowhere, his mysterious whistle that still brings back memories, and the fights with him that were definitely intense for 9-year-old me. The last thing I have to say about Mega Man 3 was its incredibly memorable soundtrack. This game's soundtrack is one of the best in the series. I remember nearly every song in the game by heart, and I still get feels from hearing Proto Man's theme. But the memory that cements Mega Man 3 at the number 1 spot is how I felt when I finally defeated Wily. I was on top of the world. This game was not easy for a kid like me at the time, and overcoming all those obstacles, defeating all those challenges, was something that I will always remember. All in all, there's very little I can say against Mega Man 3. It's not my favorite Mega Man game, my favorites are 9 and X4, but I would gladly go back to this game any time. And while you think I might be wrong in that it should be 2 or even X, this is my childhood we're talking about. And my most nostalgic game of all time is Mega Man 3.
I'm the Corner Guy, and goddamn do I feel old now!